retired Executive Director at Guardia Care. Here's Susan.
Good afternoon. When I retired last year, I committed my life to pay it forward for a wonderful life as a social worker. I became a volunteer with Leadership Louisville's Encore team, which provides free consulting services to nonprofits in our community. One of the projects that I worked on was with Free to Hope, which introduced me to Amy Leenerts and then to her friend Summer Dickerson. And it's my honor to introduce both of them to you today. Amy was sexually abused the first time before the age of 7 in an attack by 3 teenage boys in a field that was part of her backyard. Instead of being comforted after she ran home and told her parents, she was told that she was to blame for what happened. At age 19, after running away from home many times, she became the victim of a violent rape while walking home from a job. That attack left life-lasting wounds and terrible consequences. It was just a few years ago that she decided to throw off her victimhood and begin the process of living a healthy, restored life. She began to notice others who suffered the effects of sexual abuse, exploitation, and human trafficking. Now she devotes her life to finding new approaches to prevent human trafficking and other sex crimes against women and children throughout our state, and ultimately to help victims begin their journey toward health and wholeness. She founded Free to Hope, a nonprofit devoted to prevention programs and training the public on human trafficking. In the 3 years since she has been doing this work, she's received a number of very prestigious awards. And in 2017, this year, she was appointed to the Survivors Council of the Attorney General's Office. Summer Dickerson also grew up in many of the same ways, experiencing torture, anger, and chaos as a victim of both child abuse and gang rape. Her journey into trafficking was initiated by a man that pretended to love her, and she continued on and off in the trafficking and sex industry for nearly a decade. Her exodus from the sex industry began after a man held a gun to her head during a call to his home. From that day, she began to tend to those forgotten others and established a ministry called Women of the Well. For those who want to make a change, she tries to find them and provide opportunities for housing and counseling. She's invited several families whose lives have changed into her own home. If the victim of trafficking and sex crimes faces danger, she also can send them to various safe houses across the state and across the nation. She has worked in her ministry to open the House of Esther, an 8-person sanctuary for women in need of shelter, and because of their experiences in human trafficking, the sex industry, and domestic violence. These are women who have walked a very difficult journey and are now reaching out to others as part of their paying it forward. And I'm proud to first introduce to you Amy Leenerts, and she will be followed by Summer Dickerson.
Good afternoon. I have to be totally honest here. I thought I had 15 minutes, found out I have 10, so I'm going to be talking very fast. I apologize. If you want to know more about my organization, get back in touch with me. If you'd like a training, I'd be happy to do that as well. Let's start out with, I started my nonprofit, Free to Hope, 4.5 years ago. As Susan said, I had begun to heal from the sexual abuse and the violent rape I had suffered. I had been that unprotected kid, even though I was in a really nice end of town and, you know, life was supposed to be different than it was. Okay. okay? Simply put, I lived my life out of victimhood, okay? Meaning I had a victim mentality, and I approached life that way. I never thought it was possible for someone like me to succeed at much of anything, or to not be the victim that I thought I was. I just turned 50 about a month ago, right? I wasted the first 40 years of my life being a victim. I failed at college. I failed at having the career that I had dreamed of as a kid. I failed at my first marriage, and I failed at relationships because I pushed people away because they're painful. I was a victim, and that's what we do, we fail. Life is very different now, however. I choose for my life to be defined by what I do to change what's going to happen with the girls in the future, not by the sexual crimes that I endured. Now I participate in justice, the justice that I will never have on earth, but now I get to facilitate for others. If I can prevent one kid from becoming a victim of a sexual crime, especially human trafficking, then my life will have had some merit. And I feel like I will have been successful in the end. Simply, this is why I started Free to Hope, because I wanted to change something that had almost killed me. I tell you about my past just so that you understand a little bit more about these victims and who they are, whether we're talking about trafficking or prostitution or even sexual abuse. We're talking about people that have probably been sexually abused their whole life. And you learn to adapt to what you know. Today we're here to talk about human trafficking. So what is human trafficking? It's called modern day slavery. We hear that slung around all the time. Basically what it is when somebody is forced through a couple of different means into something that they probably don't really want to do, right? But there's force, fraud, and coercion to make them do that. Now, it can be labor, it can be sex. Labor trafficking, this is very prevalent in Kentucky as well. It is where somebody is forced into some kind of labor. There's probably a lot of safety violations. There's going to be a lot of unregulated stuff. And again, this is going to be done through force, fraud, or coercion. Sex trafficking, this is where somebody is forced into the sex industry by force, fraud, or coercion, unless they're under the age of 18, which we'll talk about. So what is the sex industry? Anything in yellow. That's all of what it entails. Sex trafficking of minors. A minor cannot agree to be prostituted, okay? If you've got the 16-year-old girl who's doing what she wants and has a boyfriend and he's pimping her out or prostituting her, she is a victim 100% of the time. There absolutely is no force, fraud, or coercion with anybody under the age of 18. They're automatically victims. Fact. Make sure I got there. Yeah. 83% of our victims that we're finding are from the United States, which is pretty mind-blowing because most people think that this is happening all on other countries, or all brought in from other third world countries. And that's true, totally. But what we're finding out is it's all around us. Human trafficking, the FBI says that it's the second largest and fastest growing criminal industry in the world right now. What are some of the systemic factors? And this is what it boils down to. It boils down to people that have had a difficult start in life, generally speaking. So if you look at some of this, we have so many kids in Kentucky that are going to grow up and they're going to be homeless at some point in time during their childhood. I mean, that just boggles my mind. 26% of our kids are living in poverty at any given time. The heroin epidemic is massive right now. We can't get a hold of that. We have some 2 million runaways in the United States at any given time. And we have 7,000 kids that are in foster care or some other kind of care because their own home was too dangerous for them to be in. So why would somebody traffic another person? Why would somebody do this? Quite simply, it's money. That's all it boils down to. $32 billion a year industry. That's more than Nike, Google, and Starbucks all put together. I mean, it's just a massive amount of money to be made. Pimps say, you know, you can sell a gun or drugs one time, but you can sell a girl or a boy again and again and again and again and again, upwards of 40 or more times a night. That's staggering. Pimps also will tell you that they can make about 200 grand on each person that they have. Now, if you think about that, if they have 1, 2, 3, 4 girls, whatever, that's massive amounts of money. And they don't pay taxes like you all do. So how do they get their victims? Gangs, abduction, foster kids. Foster kids are a really big one. Runaway kids, obviously another one. Sold by parents for drugs. That happens quite often now. The grooming process, the internet, which we'll talk about in just a second. An unstable home life. Induced by a boyfriend, false jobs, children with disabilities, children on the spectrum. So you get a child that has diminished mental capacity, and they are so easy for these people to go on the internet and end up pulling them out. They don't have the ability to understand what's happening to them at all, and they're just out there as prey, and these guys are willing to do that. They're also targeted at schools and the malls, you know, even here in Kentucky, there's a case right now. And this I like to just say seriously. There are so many apps, and I don't even have time to go into all the worst ones right now, but they're on everybody's phone, right, that has one of these smartphones. And if you look on a kid's phone, you're going to find some stuff that you don't even know exists. There's some apps that, there's messenger apps that as a parent, you're not going to know what your kid's doing. They're sending messages back and forth. There's some that, the fake calculator. This one is really interesting because you have a calculator on any smartphone that you have. But if you put a certain little combination of numbers in there, this opens up. And then kids can put pictures in there and they can put videos in there that they don't want you to see. Poof. This one's kind of cool because any app that you have out of any of these, you can actually put all into Poof. And then you will never even know that they have any apps on their phone. And the one in the middle, I think, is really one of the scariest. It's Yik Yak. Okay, let's say I am a 15-year-old girl and I get mad at my parents because they tell me I can't do something. So I take my phone and I go somewhere. I walk, I leave. And then I say, you know what, I'm running away. And I send it to Yik Yak. 500 people closest to me know my exact GPS location. I've just given it to them. Now, if you think of the implications of that, because kids don't think of that, it's mind-blowing. And the thing about these apps is, you know, we're never going to get a hold of this, especially our generation, but we can never go back either. So we've got to learn to go forward with being able to take care of kids and keep them safe, because we're not doing a great job at it right now. So what are some warning signs? Multiple phones. Why does a kid need more than one phone? You know, maybe 2 at the tops if they have divorced parents. Other than that, it wouldn't make any sense. Multiple hotel keys. Involvement in the system, lots of cash. Kids traveling with older men that are not family related in some way. Chronic runaways, homeless youth. Recent movement between cities. With someone that is over-controlling. Difficulty communicating by language if they are not from this area. And this is another one, the tattoos. And you'll find this with trafficking victims is they like to brand what is theirs, just like the Adidas shirt, Nike, or anything else. You know, they want you to know that it's theirs, that they made it. Well, that's what they do with women and with men too, but I usually talk about women. They want their name on there. So this particular one was a child that was actually victimized here in Kentucky, and it actually went across the state, several different states. She's been pulled out now, but that's just an example because her pimp's name was successful, and he had it straight across her chest like that. That's very common. So, sex for sale. Does anybody know about Craigslist by chance? Okay, Craigslist is one place, just one place that you can actually buy sex. You can also look for jobs, you can buy kittens and puppies, you can do lots of things. It's like Craigslist. But before we talk a little bit more about that, you also got to know there's all kinds of other places as well. It's not just a back page is bad thing, which I don't totally like Backpage, but it's not the only one. In Louisville, there is a section for Louisville, and many cases have come out of that. I won't say any more about that right now. So, you think, you always hear that whenever we have big events here in Louisville that we're going to have trafficking, right? And that's really the case. We find that we have a stagnant rate all the time. You know, it may fluctuate some, but we find out after a lot of these big events what all that really means. Now, I work with Professor Hayden at U of L, and she's done some research on this. And you can see within that the 4 peak events during a 1-year period of time. The first one being Derby 2013 went up 126% off of the norm. And then the very last, well, the second to the last one was March Madness, when we had the game here in Louisville. And what was kind of cool about this, cool in my terms, it went up, the rates went up 209% on ads selling sex, right? The very next day, they went down about the same amount, still at the regular stagnant rate. But then in Indianapolis, they went up that much or more. So what we found is, and we knew this is true, but how do you prove it exactly? There's also roving gangs that go, you know, of traffickers and victims that go around the country in a little area, right? And that's what's happening. I mean, we have it here all the time, but whenever we have big events, people are brought in for it. Now, I had done a little bit of studying myself early on when I started, and I would find the median number of about 56 ads a day. I just did it again a couple of days ago, and now there's 225 median every day. So, and that's just in a 3.5-year period of time. So it's pretty amazing how much the jump has been. Just real quick, remember, like I said, if we have a child, if a child's involved in this, there's absolutely no force, fraud, or coercion that is required for this child to obviously be claimed as a victim. And the other thing is, we are, as citizens of the Commonwealth, we are required by law, we are mandated, if we know that any child is being sexually abused or any child is being physically abused, we must report it. So where do you get help? Human Trafficking Hotline is really the number to call if the person is an adult or over. Okay, they speak 200 languages here. They can coordinate services here for that person. You're also welcome to call them at any point and ask any kind of questions as well. If the child is a minor, though, it needs to be dealt with through 911 or through LMPD first, and they have a whole protocol that they go through. Very important that that gets done, though. Obviously, you want to call 911 if there was ever an emergency. So in the end, as a society, what are we going to do? You know, I mean, you've heard my story, you'll hear summer stories, but there's millions of stories out there of people that have been so badly abused that they really don't understand that they deserve better than what's happening to them so far. Now, how do you get a hold of the big problem? I don't know, but there are certain ways that we can. And we need people that understand Louisville, that understand business, that understand all these kind of things to help in this endeavor. And I love that Rotary is actually coming up with that as one of their things this year, because it's huge, absolutely huge. I will say one thing about my company: we are looking for board members if anybody is interested at all. I won't say any more than that because I don't want to take up too much time. But I want now to introduce Summer. Come on up, Summer. Summer is an awesome person, and she's done a whole lot of work in a very short period of time, and I'm very delighted. She's a friend and a co-worker, and I'll let her finish.
Thank you. You did great. Hey everybody, my name is Summer Dickerson. I am the founder and executive director of Women of the Well Ministries, also a survivor of domestic violence, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and just of life. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story because she's giving you the educational part, but I want to make that educational part seem very real to you guys. And like she said, the things that happened to me happened right here and all over the Midwest. It wasn't in Asia and it wasn't in anywhere else. It was right here. So my nightmare started at 5 years old. I started getting sexually assaulted at 5 years old, and that went on for quite a long time. At 15 years old, because I grew up in a very abusive household as well, and drug-infested household as well. I grew up in shelters and on the streets. I know what it's like to eat out of a garbage can. I know what it's like to sleep in a park. And I was this as a small child. No child should ever have to experience that. But there's always purpose in everything. So anyway, because of my life being really insane and I got tired of being beat on, I ran away. At 15 years old, I ended up in Chicago where my real father stayed at. And my mom was from down here. And so when I ran away, I was calling somebody, and somebody came and put a gun to my back and took me to an abandoned house where there were about 10 to 15 people in this house, all men, where they beat me, raped me, sodomized me, drugged me through feces, urined on me, pistol whipped me, you name it, it got done. From that, I ended up being in the hospital on that experience for about 2.5 weeks in the ICU. And my family didn't get the help that I needed. One, I think because they just didn't know how to be honest with you. I was very angry, and I was very lonely and looking for love in all the wrong places. And of course, some guy was like, "Hey, you're awful cute. Why don't you come work at my clubs?" And I was like, "Okay." What they don't tell you about the strip clubs is women get raped and beat and abused in these clubs, and plus the chaos amongst each other. You're each other's enemies and stuff like that. And of course, this guy comes in the club one night and he says, "You're better than this. You deserve more than this. Let me take you away." Just to find out that he was going to end up being my pimp. One day we were at home and he said, after buying me bags and cars and purses and clothes, things I never had, he said, "Hey babe, I need you to do something for me." Or no, "I need you to do something for us." And I was like, "Oh." And I've sold drugs most of my life, so I thought that's what I was going to do, to be honest with you guys. But when I got there, I got raped and beat up. And when like any woman, would go home and tell her boyfriend, "Hey, this just happened to me. What are you going to, let's go get him," or whatever. And he beat me up because I came home beat up and with no money. Didn't really know what a pimp was at all, to be honest with you. I just thought I had a crazy boyfriend. It wasn't until I got out of the life that I found this out. Went up, that cycle just kept on. I've been buried alive, literally. I have been just everything that you can think of. I deal with big time anxiety and PTSD because of all of this. I've been out of the life for 3 years after a 357 was put to my head. I got saved 2 weeks after the gun was put to my head because I seen, and I know I'm, not trying to get all religious or anything, but it is what it is. God removed a gun from my head. And I got saved 2 weeks later. And then I started going out, and girls I knew that were in the industry and stuff. I worked over on 7th Street. There were women that were trying to get out of it. I'd bring them home. Some people bring dogs and cats. I bring people home. And then one day, this lady walked up to me and she said, "God told me to give you my business." So we have a Esther soap company business. It's all natural goat milk soap, and we teach the women a trade. Because you can't expect to take one of us out of something and have nothing, no opportunities or anything, right? Who's going to do that? So we had that. That was the first base that was covered. I was like, cool. And I had them in my house. Well, then a pastor walked up to me one day and said, "God told me to give you this house." And September 3rd, I opened my first home. It's called Esther's House. And in that house, the women get trauma counseling. They do art therapy, parenting classes, drug rehabilitation, everything that every single one of us women deserve to have to be break free from it. We are working on our house number 2, which will be called Jennifer's House. That house will be a crisis center. With the program, it's an 18-month program or as long as the ladies need it. With the Crisis Center, it's all about relationships. We can't expect people just to jump and change their lives out of their comfortable without a relationship. And so what I do is Amy gives me some purses at times, and I go out on the strips, and she joins me sometimes, and we give them to the homeless women or the prostitutes on the strip. I'm right on Market and 26, right at the hub of everything. And I give these women things and try to build a relationship with them. When Jennifer's House opens, what that'll be for is if they get beat up, because that happens, or they haven't eaten or haven't showered, we'll let them come there for a couple days and, just try to build a relationship with them to come into Esther's house. We do women's groups around town. I do 2 women's groups around town, just so that survivors of life, not just human trafficking and everything, because, we all been through something. And so we do that. We do just a lot of things. We just try to love on these women. And, I just want to say, wow, okay? 3 years, I'm out of the life, and this is where I'm at. I'm the founder and director of something. You can't tell me hard work cannot put you in the place that you need to be. I have one of my young ladies here with me today because I want to show these women and empower these women that, hey, you know what, we can do anything if we put the hard work on. And so I think that's my time. Sorry, I've never done my story in 10 minutes, but thank you guys for having us out. And if you have any questions, you can come up and talk to me anytime.
Wow. Questions? I don't know where you begin. I guess we've got to come up here, right? No, we've got to... We have to come up here? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Harry Friedlander. I have a question. How common is this here in Louisville? Sorry, Tracy.
Yes, ma'am.
You asked how common this is.
How common is this here in Louisville, Kentucky?
Speaking that I've been sold here, Louisville is number 1 in the state of Kentucky, and the state of Kentucky is number 10 in the United States of America.
Wow. Thank you. Now I have to give it to Greg.
Thanks. Hi. So I was looking at this brochure you had on there, and about the red flags during a hotel stay.
Right.
So obviously this has to happen at hotels.
That is one of the major venues.
So how can that? Is there any type of responsibility or any call out to these hotels and these chains? Hey guys, you're the ones that will see this more than anyone else. You need to do something, or is it all about money?
Actually, the Attorney General's office is going to come out with something pretty soon for the hotel industry that we were involved in. So hold set till next month, and that'll all be announced.
Yes.
I'm Pam Darnell, CEO of Family and Children's Place, and we help kids and families hurt by child abuse and family violence. Thank you so much for the courage to share your story. My question is, do you know a general statistic of how many adult victims of human trafficking or actually abused starting out as children?
I think what is the recognized is 90%. But when I talk with one of the other survivors, and Summer will have to tell you this, she will tell you 100% of her people in her program have been abused, sexually abused as kids. Summer?
Yeah, as a survivor, and I come in contact with my sisters, that's what I call them, on a daily basis, and it's very rare when as far as the human trafficking, because I do domestic too, domestic violence, but as far as the human trafficking goes, I have not yet met one woman that didn't start getting molested or raped as a child. And unfortunately, it was usually by somebody in their family.
Hi, my name is Ken Grossman. Thank you for sharing your story. It's incredibly moving and incredible that you guys are where you are today, and congratulations for fighting through it and battling for the success you've had. My question is kind of two-part. One, as a community, what can we do to help your cause? And, there's some discussion at Rotary how we can help. What are ways that perhaps we can help you?
I would think, first of all, we've got to get more of the message out there about what is going on, and we have to get people to recognize it, believe it, and start working towards stopping it. Second of all, what can you guys do? You all are leaders in this community. There's so many different ways that you all are involved in the community, and there's all kinds of things that we need your expertise in. So what I would say is please try and get in touch with us in whatever your industry is or wherever you're involved. We definitely have a way you can get involved easily.
Yeah, and I'd like to piggyback on that just a little bit. You know, as she said, you guys are leaders in the community. Like, I have women that I'm housing that need jobs, need therapy, need all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you can help with that kind of stuff, please do not hesitate. And, you know, it ain't even just because my women come with kids. You know what I'm saying? So we always need anything like that. If you can get behind us, and just having the presence of you all around would be absolutely amazing.
Hi, I'm Marty, Hazel, and bless you for being here and for telling your story. You know, it would be so easy to try to run and be as far away from this topic as you could. Nobody would blame you for that. And it's so wonderful that you do what you do. I was thinking about, when I was listening to your story, about the organization Scarlet Hope, which is pretty amazing. I just wondered if you work in conjunction with them in any way.
Honestly, they don't work with me. That's the answer. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I used to be in their program, and because I don't know if it's because I've started my own or I don't know how all that is, but they just don't work with me.
They do a lot of great work in the community
Yeah.
with the strip clubs, and we appreciate their work.
I'd love to work with them, but hey, you know.
Yeah, my name is Renee Brown, and truly I was touched by your story. You mentioned safe houses in and around the city, and I didn't know if you had partnered with any of the religious organizations. I have a church as well, and didn't know if you were partnering with them to develop safe houses for any of the victims.
Yeah, so, because what happens sometimes is some of my women, they can stay here, and some of my women have to be moved out of the state. Now that I have a home to house women, it's not necessarily a safe house, so I would love to partner with any of the, I run a ministry, it's definitely, so I would love to partner with anybody, really, to be honest with you, that could assist in that, because even if I'm over capacity until my other house opens up, I might need something, or if I need a plane ticket or something like that to get a girl from here to, I've had a girl go to London because she couldn't be here, like in the United States at all. So yeah, anybody that would like to do that, I would love to hook up with you.
We need the community leaders to work in their communities, whatever that be, whether it's churches or organizations or just business leaders, to help to figure out the problems in their little area. Absolutely.
Last question. Andrew Kuhn. Great work that you guys do, first of all. I know I tasked my wife to help me to obtain some purses, get the word out, and it was really overwhelming, the response that she got. I think we collected over 50 purses and things of that nature. But a lot of the questions were, we have a lot of friends in Nashville, a lot of friends in Orlando, a lot of friends in other parts of the country. Are there other organizations in those cities that you guys are associated with that we can help get out the word in those locations as well?
Personally, I would like to ask every single person to get involved in survivor-led organizations. The reason why survivor-led organizations are so important is because I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's a lot for me to get up here and tell my story time and time and time again. I deal with PTSD and triggers and all that kind of stuff. But if people like you all that are just amazing leaders get behind survivor-led organizations that, I can hook you up with one in every single state and even some countries that I know, survivor-led organizations that are doing some amazing, amazing work. And I believe that, it's very good for people to really support that, because why that's so important is because that'll give young ladies like my young lady at the table, like, hey, wait a minute, I can actually do this if I wanted to do this. But yes, any state that you need an organization, I can give you a survivor-led organization branch of them.
I just want to thank both of them for being here today and tell you that my learning curve has been rapid and steep. as I've gotten to know much more about the nature of the work that they're doing. One of the ways I do that is by friending and following them on Facebook. They both have Facebook pages, Free to Hope and Women of the Well.
Women of the Well Ministries, or you can follow Summer Dickerson.
And please do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Amy, Summer, thank you very much for being with us. And I'd just like to give a shout out to the Speakers Committee for having lined this up, an incredible learning experience. That's the, we are adjourned.